The weight of grief. The street was quiet that Tuesday evening in downtown Phoenix. The kind of quiet that settles over a city just before rush hour ends, when the sun hangs low and casts long shadows between buildings. Cars moved in steady streams, their headlights beginning to flicker on as daylight faded. The Chevron gas station on the corner of 5th and Madison hummed with its usual evening business. Commuters grabbing coffee, teenagers buying energy drinks, workers stopping for lottery tickets before heading home. But then the shouting started. At first, it was just noise. Background disturbance that blended with traffic and distant sirens. But as the minutes passed, the shouting grew louder, more desperate. A man stood near the gas pumps, mid-30s, wearing a wrinkled button-down shirt and jeans that looked like they hadn't been changed in days. His hair was disheveled, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool evening air. He was pacing back and forth, maybe 15 feet in each direction, his arms gesticulating wildly as he yelled at no one in particular. "You don't understand," he screamed at the empty air. "They were supposed to be here. They were supposed to be here." The gas station attendant, a college-aged kid named Marcus, had already called the police. He watched nervously from behind the bulletproof glass of his booth, his hand hovering over the silent alarm. Customers began to avoid the pumps closest to the man, crossing to the other side of the lot or driving away entirely. Officer Miguel Reyes received the call at 7:23 p.m. He was finishing his patrol of the downtown district when dispatch crackled through his radio. "Unit 47, we have a disturbance at the Chevron on 5th and Madison. Possible 5150. Respond code 2. Reyes had been on the force for 12 years. He'd seen his share of mental health crises, domestic disputes, and public disturbances. As he turned his patrol car toward the gas station, he mentally prepared himself for what he might find. The evening had been quiet so far. A few traffic stops, a minor fender bender, nothing unusual, but calls like this one could go any direction. He arrived at the scene within 4 minutes. The man was still pacing, still shouting. Reyes parked his cruiser at the edge of the lot and observed for a moment before getting out. The man appeared to be alone, but Reyes had learned never to assume. He scanned the area for other potential threats, noting the handful of customers who had gathered at a safe distance to watch the scene unfold. As Reyes approached on foot, he could make out more of what the man was saying. The words came in fragments, broken by sobs and gasps for air. "The accident, 3 months ago. They said it wasn't my fault, but I should have been driving. I should have been there." The man's voice cracked on the last words. He stopped pacing and stood still for a moment, his shoulders shaking. Then he resumed his frantic movement, this time walking in smaller circles. Reyes was about 30 feet away when his radio crackled again. This time, it was dispatch with updated information. "Unit 47, be advised. Witness reports subject may be armed. Possible weapon concealed in jacket. Requesting backup." The words sent a chill through Reyes. He stopped walking and reassessed the situation. The man was wearing a dark jacket, and yes, he did keep reaching inside it with both hands. From a distance, it was impossible to tell what, if anything, he might be carrying. Within 2 minutes, Officer Jennifer Chen arrived as backup. She was newer to the force, only 3 years on the job. But she was thorough and cautious. She positioned herself at an angle that gave her a clear view of the man, while keeping her cruiser as cover. "What's the situation?" she asked Reyes over the radio. "Possible mental health crisis. Reyes replied. Subject appears distressed, possibly grieving. Unconfirmed reports of a weapon. Chen nodded and kept her hand near her holster. She'd been trained to assume the worst and hope for the best. Better to be prepared than caught off guard. The man seemed to notice the police presence for the first time. He stopped pacing and looked up, his eyes focusing on the two officers. For a moment, the three of them stood in a triangle of tension, nobody moving, nobody speaking. Then the man's face contorted with rage and anguish. He screamed, a sound that was part anger, part desperation, part something deeper and more primal. His arms shot up, and he reached inside his jacket with both hands, his movements quick and jerky. Officer Chen's training kicked in. Her hand moved to her holster, fingers closing around the grip of her service weapon. The man's behavior matched the threat assessment she'd been taught to watch for. Erratic movement, reaching for a concealed object, failure to comply with police presence. But Reyes didn't move. He stood perfectly still, his hands at his sides, watching the man's face instead of his hands. Something in the man's expression, the way his eyes filled with tears even as he reached into his jacket, made Reyes hesitate. 12 years on the force had taught him to read people, to distinguish between aggression and desperation. In a single motion, the man pulled his hands from inside his jacket, but instead of a weapon, he held a photograph. It was folded, creased, stained with what looked like tears and maybe coffee. The wind caught it, and it fluttered in his shaking hands. The man fell to his knees right there on the asphalt, still clutching the photograph. His voice broke as he spoke. They're gone. My family. I lost them. I lost them, and I can't get them back. He held the photograph up, and even from a distance, Reyes could see what it contained. A woman and 2 children, all smiling at the camera. They were standing in what looked like a park, holding hands, the sun shining behind them. The woman had long dark hair and was wearing a sundress. The children, a boy and a girl, looked to be maybe 8 and 10 years old. They had their mother's eyes and their father's smile. The man on the ground was sobbing now, his whole body shaking. He pressed the photograph to his chest and rocked back and forth. I was supposed to pick them up, he said, his voice barely audible. I was supposed to pick them up from soccer practice, but I had to work late. I had to finish this project. I told Sarah to take them. I told her I'd be there in an hour. His words came faster now, tumbling over each other in a rush of confession and grief. But there was an accident. A drunk driver ran a red light. Sarah tried to swerve, but the car rolled 3 times. The paramedics said they died on impact. They said they didn't suffer. But I know they were waiting for me. I know they were wondering where I was. Officer Chen slowly released her grip on her weapon, her hand falling to her side. She looked at Reyes, who was still standing motionless, still watching the man with patient attention. I should have been there, the man continued. I should have been driving. I should have been the one to die. Not them. Not my babies. He looked up at the sky, which was now fully dark except for the artificial glow of streetlights and neon signs. I come here every night. This is where I was supposed to meet them. Sarah was going to bring them here for gas and snacks before we went home. I keep thinking, maybe if I wait long enough, they'll show up. Maybe they're just running late. The story was heartbreaking in its simplicity. A father who had lost everything. A man whose world had ended in the space of a phone call. He wasn't dangerous. He was destroyed. Reyes stepped forward slowly, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. He holstered his weapon, which he had never actually drawn, and approached the kneeling man. "What were their names?" Reyes asked gently. The man looked up, surprised by the question. "Emma and David. Emma was 10, David was 8. They were everything." "And your wife?" "Sarah. Sarah Elizabeth. We would have been married 15 years next month." He wiped his nose with the back of his hand. "I had already bought her present, concert tickets. She loved music. She used to sing to the kids every night before bed." Reyes knelt beside the man, careful to maintain a respectful distance. He said nothing for a long moment, just sat with him in the shared silence of grief. "I'm sorry," Reyes finally said. "I'm so sorry for your loss." The man nodded, still crying. "I don't know how to live without them. I don't know how to go home to an empty house. I don't know how to wake up tomorrow and the next day and the next day without them." "You don't have to figure it all out tonight," Reyes said. "You just have to get through tonight." "I can't," the man whispered. "I can't do it anymore." Reyes felt a chill at those words. He'd heard them before, from other people in other situations. Sometimes they meant one thing, sometimes another. But they always meant the person was at the end of their rope. "What's your name?" Reyes asked. "Michael. Michael Carson." "Michael, I'm Officer Reyes, and I want you to know that you don't have to carry this alone." Michael looked at him, confusion in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean that grief is heavy, and when you try to carry it all by yourself, it gets heavier. But there are people who can help you carry it. People who understand what you're going through." "Nobody understands," Michael said. "Nobody has lost what I've lost." "You might be surprised," Reyes said. "There are other parents who have lost children, other spouses who have lost partners, other people who have had their whole world taken away in an instant. They understand better than anyone." Michael was quiet for a moment, considering this. The photograph was still clutched in his hands, and he looked down at it again. "They were so happy that day," he said. "We went to the park, had a picnic. Emma had learned to ride a bike without training wheels, and David had lost his first tooth. Sarah took this picture right before we left. She said she wanted to remember the perfect day." "It sounds like it was perfect," Reyes said. "It was, and I keep thinking, if I had known it was going to be our last perfect day, I would have made it last longer. I would have stayed at the park until dark. I would have carried them on my shoulders and spun them around until they were dizzy with laughter." "You couldn't have known," Reyes said. "None of us ever know when our time is up." "But I should have been there," Michael said again. "I should have been driving." "And then you would have died too," Reyes said. "And they would have died anyway. The only difference is that now there would be no one left to remember them, no one left to love them, no one left to honor their memory." Michael looked up at him, his eyes red and swollen from crying. "I never thought of it that way." "Your grief is proof of your love," Reyes said. "It's proof that they mattered, that they were loved, that their lives had meaning." The two men sat in silence for several minutes. In the distance, Officer Chen was directing traffic around the scene, making sure the situation didn't escalate or create additional problems. The gas station had mostly emptied out, but a few customers remained, watching from a distance with curious and concerned expressions. Finally, Michael spoke again. "I've been coming here every night for 3 months, just waiting, just hoping. I know it's crazy." It's not crazy, Reyes said. It's human. When we lose someone we love, we look for them everywhere. We wait for them to come home. We listen for their voices. We save their place at the dinner table. It's how we process loss. But they're not coming back, Michael said. They're never coming back. No, Reyes agreed. They're not. But that doesn't mean they're gone. They're still with you in here. He pointed to his chest. And in here, he pointed to his head. Every memory you have of them, every lesson they taught you, every moment of joy they brought you, that's still yours. No one can take that away. Michael nodded slowly. Sarah used to say that people don't really die as long as someone remembers them. She sounds like a wise woman. She was. She was the smartest person I knew. She would have known what to do. She would have known how to handle this. Maybe, Reyes said, or maybe she would have been just as lost as you are. Maybe she would have been sitting in this same spot, holding the same photograph, wondering how to go on. Michael considered this. I never thought about how she would have grieved. Grief isn't logical, Reyes said. It doesn't follow rules. It doesn't make sense. It just is. How do you know so much about grief? Michael asked. Reyes was quiet for a moment. I lost my partner 2 years ago. Not my wife, my police partner. We'd been working together for 6 years. He was like a brother to me. He was killed in a traffic stop that went wrong. I'm sorry, Michael said. Thank you. The point is, I know what it's like to lose someone who was important to you. I know what it's like to feel like you should have been there. I know what it's like to feel like you failed them. Did you come to terms with it? I'm still coming to terms with it, Reyes said. Some days are better than others. Some days I still pick up the phone to call him before I remember he's gone. Some days I still expect to see him at roll call, but it gets easier. Not easy, but easier. I don't want it to get easier, Michael said. I don't want to forget them. Getting easier doesn't mean forgetting, Reyes said. It means learning to live with the loss. It means finding ways to honor their memory while still moving forward. Michael looked down at the photograph again. I don't know how to move forward. You don't have to figure it out all at once, Reyes said. You just have to take it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time if you have to. What if I can't? Then you ask for help. You find a counselor, a support group, a friend. You don't have to do this alone. Michael was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was steadier than it had been all evening. I haven't eaten in 2 days, he said. I haven't slept in longer than that. I lost my job last week because I kept missing work. I'm about to lose my house because I can't pay the mortgage. I don't know how to take care of myself anymore. Those are all things that can be fixed, Reyes said. But first, you have to want to fix them. You have to want to keep living. I don't know if I do, Michael said quietly. That's okay, Reyes said. You don't have to want it right now. You just have to be willing to try. Can you do that? Can you be willing to try? Michael looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I can try. Good, Reyes said. That's all anyone can ask. Officer Chen approached them carefully, speaking in a low voice. Everything okay here? We're okay, Reyes said. Michael, this is Officer Chen. She's going to help us figure out what comes next. Michael looked up at her. Am I in trouble? No, Chen said. You're not in trouble, but we are concerned about you. We want to make sure you're safe. I'm not going to hurt anyone, Michael said. I know, Chen said. but we want to make sure you're not going to hurt yourself either. Michael was quiet for a moment. I thought about it, he admitted. I thought about it a lot, but I couldn't do it. Not here, not at the place where I was supposed to meet them. I'm glad you didn't, Reyes said, because the world is a better place with you in it. I don't feel like it is. I know. But feelings aren't always facts. And right now, your feelings are clouded by grief and trauma. That doesn't make them invalid, but it does make them temporary. The three of them sat in the parking lot for another 20 minutes, talking through options. Michael agreed to go to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. He agreed to contact his insurance company about mental health coverage. He agreed to call his sister in California, who had been trying to reach him for weeks. As they prepared to leave, Michael looked at the photograph one more time. Then he folded it carefully and put it back in his jacket pocket. "They'll always be with me," he said. "Yes," Reyes said. "They will." Later, after Michael had been transported to the hospital and the paperwork had been filed, Officer Chen found Reyes in the station parking lot. He was sitting in his patrol car, staring out at the city lights. "You handled that well," she said. "Thank you." "I have to ask, though, when he reached into his jacket, why didn't you draw your weapon? The witness said he might be armed. Protocol says..." "Protocol says a lot of things," Reyes interrupted. "But sometimes you have to read the situation. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts. But what if you were wrong? What if he had been armed?" Reyes looked at her. He was armed. He had a weapon more dangerous than any gun or knife. "What do you mean?" "He had grief. He had guilt. He had the weight of everything he'd lost. Those things can kill you just as dead as a bullet." Chen nodded slowly. "I never thought about it that way." "The thing is," Reyes continued, "we're not just here to protect people from external threats. Sometimes we're here to protect them from themselves. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the world is a broken heart. Do you think he'll be okay?" "I think he has a chance now. Before tonight, he was alone with his grief. Now he knows he doesn't have to be. That might be enough to save his life." Chen was quiet for a moment. "How do you know when to take that risk? How do you know when to trust your instincts instead of following protocol?" "Experience," Reyes said. "Time, and maybe a little bit of faith in human nature." "What if you're wrong?" "Then I'm wrong. But I'd rather be wrong about trusting someone than wrong about not trusting them." The story of what happened that night at the Chevron station never made the news. No body cam footage went viral. No headlines were written. There was no controversy, no investigation, no award ceremony. But that night, one man walked away breathing because another chose to wait, because another chose to listen, because another chose to see the person behind the pain. Michael Carson spent 3 days in the hospital. He was connected with a grief counselor who specialized in trauma and loss. He joined a support group for people who had lost family members in accidents. He started taking medication for depression and anxiety. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks. There were nights when he still drove to the gas station and sat in his car, crying. There were mornings when he couldn't get out of bed. There were moments when the weight of his loss felt too heavy to bear. But he kept trying. He kept showing up. He kept putting one foot in front of the other. 6 months later, he sent a letter to the police department. It was addressed to Officer Reyes, and it contained a single photograph, the same one from that night. but now it was framed and sitting on a mantel next to a candle and some flowers. The letter was short. Dear Officer Reyes, I wanted you to know that I'm still here. I'm still trying. Some days are harder than others, but I'm still here. I got a new job. I'm seeing a counselor. I'm learning to live with the loss without being consumed by it. I still miss them every day. I still love them every day. But I'm starting to understand that grief and love can coexist with hope and healing. Thank you for seeing me that night. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing to wait. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is trust that tomorrow might be better than today. Sincerely, Michael Carson, P.S. I'm volunteering now with the Crisis Hotline. I'm learning to help other people carry their grief. Sarah would have been proud. Officer Reyes kept that letter in his desk drawer. On difficult days when the job felt too hard or the world felt too broken, he would take it out and read it again. It reminded him why he became a police officer in the first place. Not to catch criminals or write tickets or enforce laws, but to help people. To be present in their darkest moments. To offer hope when hope seemed impossible. Sometimes the most important thing a police officer can do is nothing at all. Sometimes the most powerful weapon they carry is compassion. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is simply choosing to see the humanity in another person's pain. And sometimes that's enough to save a life.